Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Dean of the College of Business Administration, I'm pleased to welcome you to the college's June 1997 Master's Hooding Ceremony. All of us at CBA are very proud of. And now I'll call on Dr. Chris Allen, Professor of Marketing here at CBA, currently on leave at Procter & Gamble, who will introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Dean Russ. It is my privilege to introduce this afternoon's speaker, Louis N. Strike. Before I provide a very brief review of Lou's background, let me offer a comment on the topic he has selected for his talk. As you can see from your programs, Lou will be speaking to us about the power of business ethics. This is a complex topic, an ambitious topic, but certainly an appropriate topic for us to be reflecting on as part of a master's hooding ceremony. I have had the pleasure of hearing Lou speak about this issue in other venues. I have had the opportunity to review a monograph that he has recently published titled The Power of Business Ethics. Lou has a potent message to share with us on this important issue. Now to his credentials. Let me begin with his educational background. Lou received his bachelor's degree from the University of Utah, Salt Lake City, with a double major in mathematics and philosophy. His MBA is from the University of Chicago. Currently, Lou is managing director and partner of Ballinger Strike & Associates, a crisis management and turnaround consulting firm with a nationwide practice. Prior to his consulting career, Lou held senior management positions with a number of diverse firms. He has 20 years accumulated experience as president and/or CEO in companies like the Hess and Eisenhart Manufacturing Company, Lodge and Shipley Incorporated, Packaging Unlimited Incorporated, and Libby Lee Toys. Lou is also an accomplished speaker. For example, he is a highly rated instructor in Inc. magazine's annual conference on growing the company and was recently nominated to the National Speaker Bureau for the Turnaround Management Association. Lou and his family reside in Cincinnati. His eldest son, Nicholas, graduated from our MBA program exactly 1 year ago. Lou, not his son Nicholas, owns and rides a Harley-Davidson. Lou Strike has a valuable perspective to share with us on the topic of business ethics. I would encourage all our graduates to reflect on his message. Lou?
Thank you, Chris, Dean Russ, members of the faculty and administration, our guests, and of course, our graduates. I'm honored to be here this afternoon, but I feel the pressure because this is a program where everyone, faculty, administration, and the students expect a lot of each other and themselves. There's a little story about some expectations. In April, Professor Allen got together a group consisting of Professor Bender, Jim Bast, Angie Mitchell. Angie represented the students, Jim the administration, Tom faculty. And they laid out in crisp language the expectations for my remarks. And they were quite simple. Angie, on behalf of the students, had a modest requirement. She asked that I make 2 points that she would remember for the rest of her life. Tom Bender suggested that the luncheon went so well that he would extend my time allotment from 10 to 15 minutes with which Dean Bass concurred because he feels that I can't say anything in 10 minutes. So I'm going to deliver today the shortest commencement address ever. Where's Angie? Here we go, Angie. Never give in. Never give in. Never, 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 never. In nothing large or small, grand or petty. Never give in, except to convictions of honor and good sense. That is the shortest commencement address ever. It was delivered by Winston Churchill, 1941, and I hope you won't find it trust eroding if I use it today as an introduction to my remarks. I've got a couple of reasons for doing so. One, I wanted to satisfy Angie's remarks. I felt Winston Churchill was my best hope. Second of all, I've spent a career in business trying to make the judgment, the balance, the balancing act between honor and good sense. Let me begin. A business is a nexus of contracts. It's a coming together of contracts between vendors, shareholders, customers, and employees. As business leaders, we are obligated to manage that nexus, and it will drive us right into the heart of an ethical crucible, and it is a messy subject. Here's a story to introduce that messiness. On March 9th, 1996, Chris invited me to speak one Saturday morning to a marketing class, and I get there early. I'm all set up. First student comes in, throws his stuff on the back row, and as my custom, I ran to the back and stick my hand out, say with a smile, "Good morning. My name's Louie Strike." The student, without smiling, which I always find annoying, student extends his hand and says, "I'm Jeff Burke. And this better be good." Now, I have a special kind of humor impairment, and I couldn't contain a smile. I think Jeff picked up on that somehow. And I said, "Well, Jeff, what is your goal for this session?" He looks at me and he says, "My goal is to stay awake." I said, "Jeff, that's my goal for you as well." So I thought, going back to the front, the students come in, I thought I'd have a little fun with Jeff. And I asked Jeff to engage in a mind experiment where he was a finalist, one or two finalists for a job he really wanted badly, and I was the interrogator. See, I was going to interview him. So Jeff agrees to it, stands up now, all the eyes are on Jeff, and then they're on me. They don't know what's coming. Jeff doesn't know what's coming. So I said, "Jeff, can you tell a lie?" Jeff is silent. I mean, it's like he's in stone. He begins to speak, and then he stops. It's what behavioral scientists call a delayed speech pattern. I'm serious, but loving it. He finally says, slowly and lowly, low voice, "Yes, I can, but I don't like to." And then I asked, "When would you?" And Jeff launches into a Joycean stream of consciousness. He's weaving lofty points around, but he sums it all up somehow, saying yes, he would, to serve a greater good. was a great answer under pressure. And what was neat about it is that the manner in which Jeff answered, we all knew, everyone in the class knew, that this was a man concerned about answering properly and how he would be perceived. Well, in Philosophy 101, the example that it's used in this circumstance when it's okay to lie is that imagine someone comes to your door and says, "Is your brother home? I have this shotgun and I want to kill him." Certainly no one would argue that the right thing to do is to say, "Just a minute, I'll get him." Now, what can be said of a subject where 99% of us can tell a lie under certain circumstances? And not only that, have it be the right thing to do. Now, we're not talking about white lies. Forget white lies. We all tell white lies. I'm going to tell you my favorite white lie, and then we'll set that subject aside. My favorite white lie has to do with my Aunt Kay in Chicago, who somehow got the idea that this certain chicken dish she serves is my favorite. Truth is, it's not my favorite. She makes it every time, and she thinks it's a surprise. So to add to the whiteness, to the lie, I have to act surprised as well as act like it's my favorite. She presents this dish, and she says, "Surprise!" Her eyes are as big as plates. "Surprise!" She says, "Your favorite." I'm going, "Oh, my favorite." And then she waits till I take a bite, which it's got to be a big bite. So I take a big bite. She says, "How is it?" I say, "It's just like always." We're not talking about that kind of thing. We're talking about real lies in real circumstances where, because of our conflicts of interest that we have with others in the nexus of contracts groups that we're involved with, put them in a situation where they're not entitled possibly to some certain information. And if they had it, we in organizations we represent may be subject to a reprisal of some sort. The conflict of interest principle tells us that even in the most perfect agreements, we can all imagine receiving a little more in the way of rights and a little less in the way of obligations. Customers, of course, want more for less. The vendors want longer runs, better pricing. The employees want better working conditions. We want higher compensation. And the shareholders, of course, want a higher profit, a greater profit at a lower level of risk. Here's a story that speaks to this conflict of interest principles. When my sons Peter and Paul were about 7 and 9, they got in an argument about a piece of cherry pie. I ran into the kitchen. I said, "Hey guys, what's going on?" Paul says, "Well, Dad, there's one piece of pie." And Peter says, "Yeah, we both want it." Now, for 75 years at our house, in our family, we've had a rule. Whoever cuts the pie has got to let the other one choose which piece. It's worked for 75 years until this X generation. I said, "What's the problem?" And Paul says, "Well, Dad, Peter wants me to cut. I'm the little brother. I can't cut it so good." So I look at Peter. Peter's got a smile. I know Paul's telling the truth. I said, "Peter, is that true?" He said, "Yes, Dad, but I'm only 9. I can't cut that good. And Paul always gets the bigger piece." So I did the only thing I could. I ate the pie. And that issue has not come up again. But from an ethics point of view, the situation is we're going to manage these contracts, this coming together of contracts. The complication is that we have these conflicts of interest with the people we're representing and the people we're dealing with. And we also have the added problem that there are no rules that apply every time, for sure. So what's the solution? Well, what I've discovered is that if we set aside questions of right and wrong, good and bad, good people and bad people, and focus in on behaviors, which are either trust building or trust eroding, it improves our ability to communicate the ethical points that we would like to make. It has improved my batting average, I feel, in my ability to balance honor and good sense. As a CEO, you know, I went in one day and CFO's on the phone with a stack of checks there, and I hear her say, "The check's in the mail." So I said, "Well, Susan, you haven't mailed those checks." She says, "I know, Louie, I didn't mail them." I said, I couldn't say, "Susan, you're a bad girl." But what I could say is, "Susan, look, it's going to erode trust with that vendor if you tell him a check is mailed when, in fact, it hasn't been." And what I've found is that people have a good sense when a behavior is trust building or trust eroding. And what we find in business is that if people are achieving the expected gains that they expect to realize as a result of their relationship with you, trust builds. And when people aren't getting what they expect, or they're making losses, trust erodes. And so over a career, it's as if we're all building a radius of trust, which defines a circle within which there are people who are willing to deal with us or not. Over a lifetime, we see people who are able to build a large radius of trust. And then we see other talented people, which because of ethical problems and trust-eroding behavior, never realize their potential. So as a group, individually, you must all commit yourself to trust-building behavior. Today, your name shines because of your great effort and the effort of those who helped you get to this point in your life and in your career. But your future success, now that your capability has been established, will depend more on the quality of your heart and your feelings for other people than it will on your head and your ability to solve problems. It has been 26 years since I sat where you're sitting. And for 26 years, a reputation has been built for MBAs as a group. The reputation is that we're smart, we're tough, and we're terrifying. We're terrifying to those who aren't in the club because we have great capacity, and in our ardor to get ahead, we, in some cases, will erode the trust of our associates, people that we depend upon to discharge our responsibility to the organizations that we serve. This trust is eroded in many small ways from the beginning. Your first day on the job, or your first day on the new job, or your first day on the job as the new MBA. Every behavior has a trust-building component to it. It's either building trust or eroding trust. Now, in a real sense, trust-building behavior is a higher standard than ethical behavior. Few people would argue that to smile, say good morning, and mean it is a requirement of ethical behavior. But trust-building behavior requires it. It requires you to take the smaller piece of pie when you have the opportunity to take the larger. It requires you to cut the pie a little bit unevenly so that your associate can take the larger piece. It requires you to deal with everyone in a deferential manner with respect. The truth is, it requires a monumental effort. But there's an aesthetic dimension to this kind of behavior And when you see it over a long career, it is a thing of beauty. And for those of you who are capable, which you are, and who can establish that kind of trust in your company, in your industry, in your community, people will be lined up to deal with you. So in closing, I want you to take this home with you. And here it is. Preserve your good name. Preserve your good name. Preserve it, preserve it, preserve it, preserve it. With all people, large and small, grand and petty. Preserve it without exception. It is a matter of honor and good sense. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lou. We really appreciate your bringing these words to us. Thanks, Angie, and thanks, Jeff, wherever you are, for providing some of the grist for this speech today. Words to live by, certainly, for all of us.